If I were starting out now, I would know how to better access capital. I did it sort of the old-fashioned, Robert Allen nothing down method. Why classic business model was drive around, walking distance to campus, look for single-family homes that people would be willing to sell, and buy them with $1,000 down, or nothing down, or that type of thing. And between the decade of now I was acquiring 2 or 3 houses a year. I got up to 25 houses, and that dog don't hunt, couldn't roll out, too far spread out. I didn't really realize it, but I didn't have the phrase, but I'd reached the end of my business plan. I needed a new business plan, and I realized that at almost a subconscious level. And at that point in time, I started buying multifamily in College Park, quads and duplexes. And there was a little small ad about that big that appeared in the Gainesville Sun back in late 1981. And it was 109 units for sale in Northeast Gainesville. Well, I wasn't interested in Northeast Gainesville, but I figured it was market information. So I called the number. I ended up talking to a gentleman called Ralph Scrafford. And it turned out it was a misprint. And it was in Northwest Gainesville, and it was 109 units in the area, now known as College Park. Very serendipitous. Mr. Scrafford had built some concrete block stuff there over the years, ranging from 14th Street all the way over to 19th Street. And it was for sale. On the tragedy side, his son had been managing it for him, and his son had committed suicide. So it was kind of sad in a way. But Mr. Scrafford wanted to be done and to be out of there. And he was kind enough to finance it for me with $50,000 down, because that's all I had. And that was a good deal on 109 units. It was a different time. I gave him back a mortgage at 13%. 13%, folks. That sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. But this was in the heyday of the inflation from the Vietnam era, and we were seeing 6 to 7% inflation a year. So you could think of it as being more like 6% real interest rate once you subtracted the inflation. And 6 to 7% inflation means you could raise your rents 6 to 7% every year. So it was a different era, and you had to adapt to it. The 109 units was not without its problems. He had 30% of his rent was more than a month past due. He walked me around for several evenings, and we knocked on doors. And he said, "This is Mr. Collier. He is the new owner." And I would hand them a 3-day notice, the first legal step in the eviction. I said, "Hi, my name's Nathan. You're behind. You got 3 days to catch up." Basically, new sheriff in town. And most of them paid up. Most of the rent was simply because nobody had gone in, knocked on the door and asked for it. So that was the start of my holdings in College Park. And right now I own 476 units in College Park. And I was very fortunate because I got to do what an individual who doesn't have inherited wealth or win the lottery, I got to buy an apartment community. I mean, apartment communities go for 15 to 50 million bucks. Where do you get the money to put 30% down on 15 to, $50 million? But I was able to buy an apartment community on the installment plan, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 units a year, a little bit at a time. I mean, to give you an idea, they came in all sorts of ways. But I was a local boy and I had a good name. And most people with real estate already have money, all right? And most of these are private individuals trying to sell or cash out or reach retirement or just tired of management. And most of them were managed by the owner. And they already had money. They didn't need more money. What would they do with the more money? They'd rather have me pay them 7, 8, 9, 10% interest on it, on an asset they knew, an asset whose value they knew, and collect that check and postpone their capital gains installment plan. So it worked out very well.